Bonjour les amis, dans cette vidéo, nous allons apprendre la leçon 7, les achats de Corinne. Let me start by sharing my screen. Voilà. So, in leçon 7, we will continue to learn about the passé composé with many other learning targets. Here are the learning targets for cette leçon. I can talk and write about what people see using the verb voir. I can describe and recognize past actions using the past tense of common irregular verbs. I can talk about actions that no one does and actions related to nothing using the negative expressions ne personne and ne rien. I can say where someone went by using the verb aller, to go, in the passé composé, which is the past tense. I can communicate information about when something is taking or took place using expressions of time in the past, present, and future. Let's start with the first learning target. I can talk right about what people see using the verb voir. Voir, it's an irregular verb. It means to see. And here is how we conjugate it in the present tense. And then we will learn how to conjugate it in the passé composé. D'accord? So, say it with me. Je vois. Tu vois. Il voit. Elle voit. On voit. Nous voyons. Nous voyons. Vous voyez. Vous voyez. Il avec S et elle avec S, voit. So this voix, the plural one, sounds like the singular one. The E and T in the present is silent. And as you can see, it's irregular. We have a Y here, Y. Okay? Now, right away, we will move to learn how to describe and recognize past actions using the past participle of irregular verbs. And this is kind of a review, but also we have new verbs. First, let's start by doing a quick review of the regular past participles of regular verbs. The verbs ending with ER, their past participles end with E accent aigu, like so. The verbs ending with RE, their past participle ends with U, as in attendre, attendu. The regular verbs ending with ER or IR, their past participle ends with E, as in choisir, choisi. But of course, we need the helper verb, right? For these verbs, it would be avoir. Now let's look at the irregular past participles with avoir, and we learned that to be means être. It's irregular. The past participle of être is été. For to have, avoir, the past participle is eu. For to do or to make, which is faire, the past participle is fait. For to take or to order, meaning prendre, the past participle is pris, and it's irregular. Same for to see, voir, the past participle is vu, as in voir, the verb that we just learned how to conjugate in the present tense. Now, knowing the past participle, vu, will help us conjugate it in the passé composé. To put on or to put is mettre, the past participle is mis. There you go, mis. Now, of course, we will have many practices in class. Now I'm moving through the learning targets. Please fill out your lesson notes. Now this is section, this is the third section, which is 7C, set C of la leçon 7. We're going to learn about la négation. La négation, we know that ne pas is a regular negation expression, and we put ne pas around the verb, like je ne vois pas, I do not see. But here, the new learning target is I can talk about actions that no one does. that no one does. I'm sorry, I can talk about actions that no one does and actions related to nothing using the negative expressions ne personne and ne rien. So just like we learned that ne pas is a negative, negates a sentence, ne pas meaning not, ne jamais also negates a sentence, but it means never. So both expressions together, ne dot 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 jamais means never. Ne dot 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 rien means nothing. So here is another negation expression, and of course what goes on these dots, what replaces these dots between the ne and the pas and in the jamais and the ne and rien? It's the verb, the conjugated verb. Another negative expression is ne personne, no one. So here we go, ne pas, ne jamais, ne rien, ne personne. And we will look now at how we use them in a sentence. But also we will learn the expressions quelqu'un, someone, quelqu'un, quelque chose, something, quelqu'un, quelque chose, and their contraries, et leur contraire. Note how the following expressions are used in the present and the passé composé. So now that we learned already how to conjugate the verbs in the present and the passé composé, we're going to learn all these expressions in both the présent and passé composé. We see where we place them for each tense. Okay, quelqu'un meaning someone or somebody. Here is an example for the present tense, and remember to fill out your notes, and then we look at it in the passé composé sentence. Here you go. J'invite quelqu'un. J'invite quelqu'un. I invite someone or somebody. In the passé composé, j'ai invité, right? Helper verb, past participle. J'ai invité quelqu'un. Now, let's see how we negate it. I did not, instead of saying I invited someone, this time we're going to say I did not invite anyone. Nobody or not anyone. So j'invite quelqu'un is a initial statement. We're gonna negate it. Je n'invite personne. So we do not say je n'invite pas quelqu'un. We say je n'invite personne because ne personne is the opposite of quelqu'un. Okay, personne. Ne personne, and of course we put ne personne around the conjugated verb. Same thing for in the passé composé, j'ai invité quelqu'un. Where do we put ne personne? We put it a little bit differently than ne pas. We learned that ne pas, we place it around the helper verb, but ne personne goes around both the past participle and the auxiliary, the helper verb. Okay, so we'll end up with je n'ai invité personne. Okay, so not all the negative expressions, ne pas, ne rien, ne personne, are placed in the same location in the passé composé sentences. So here we go. Je n'ai invité personne. But for quelque chose, something, the opposite of quelque chose or the negation of quelque chose, something is ne rien, nothing or not anything. Here is an example. Je fais quelque chose. This is a sentence in the present tense. I do something. And then what is the passé composé of je fais? J'ai fait. I did something. J'ai fait quelque chose. What is the negation of je fais quelque chose? I am doing something. It's I am doing nothing. And here is how it looks like in French. Je ne fais rien. So ne and rien goes around the verb in the present tense. But what happens to ne and rien in the negative, in the passé composé sentence? Let's look at the initial one. J'ai fait quelque chose. I did something, right? So where do we place ne rien? For rien, we place it like ne pas around the helper verb, like this. Je n'ai rien fait around the first element of the passé composé, but ne personne is placed around both the helper verb and the past participle. You got that? Okay. The above expressions can be the subject of the sentence. Like we can use quelqu'un itself as a subject, like so. Quelqu'un a téléphoné, meaning someone called. Someone is a subject who did the action of calling. And in another sentence, here you go, we have personne n'a travaillé. No one worked. Okay, so personne is a subject, and then we put n'a travaillé. Personne n'a travaillé. So when we are using it as a subject, we start with personne, and then we flip the order of ne, and we put it after personne. Are you with me? Look, where is personne? Je n'invite personne. I do not invite anyone. Personne is not the subject here, so it's at the end of the sentence. Compare it to this sentence. Personne n'a travaillé. Personne is the subject, and we're saying personne n'a. Personne n'a. No one worked. Okay? Ne, personne, and ne, rien are negative expressions that require ne before the verb. D'accord? Ne and ne before the verb. In one word answers, personne and rien can stand alone, like so. Qui as-tu rencontré? Who did you meet? We learned how to ask a question with a question word and the inversion of the passé composé, right? Here we go. Qui as-tu rencontré? Personne. Who did you meet? No one. So personne can stand alone. Qu'est-ce que tu as fait? So here we have que plus est que plus subject plus verb, right? Qu'est-ce que tu as fait? What did you do? Rien. Nothing. In the passé composé, the word order is ne plus avoir plus past participle plus personne, like so. Here's an example. Je n'ai vu personne. So you have the subject plus ne plus avoir plus past participle plus personne. I saw no one. And for rien, it's ne plus avoir plus rien plus the past participle. Like so, je n'ai rien vu. Je n'ai rien vu. So subject plus ne plus helper verb avoir plus rien plus past participle. Okay? So notice rien is before the past participle, but personne is after. Okay. Here are some examples for the present tense first, okay? And then we look at the same sentences in the passé composé. All these negative expressions sandwich themselves around the conjugated form of the verb, conjugated verb of a sentence, like so. Je ne regarde pas la télé. So in the present tense, it's a bit simpler, right? So we know that ne pas is around the verb, ne jamais is placed around the verb, the conjugated verb. In the present tense, we have one element, right, of the conjugated verb, and ne rien is also placed around the conjugated verb, as well as ne personne, it's placed around the conjugated verb. Je ne regarde pas la télévision. I'm not watching television. Il ne nettoie jamais sa chambre. He never cleans his room. Nous ne faisons rien le samedi matin. We never do anything, or we do nothing Saturday morning. Caroline n'aime personne. Caroline likes no one. Okay, so notice the placement. And then here is the sandwich that I spoke to you about. So ne or an apostrophe plus verbe plus pas, jamais, rien, or personne. This is in the present tense, right? Now, in the passé composé, three of these negative expressions, only three, sandwich the auxiliary verb, so ne personne sandwich, but ne personne sandwiches the entire verbal phrase, like so. Watch. Je n'ai pas regardé la télé. I'm going to keep moving. Il n'a jamais nettoyé sa chambre. Nous n'avons rien fait samedi matin. But compare and contrast to Caroline n'a aimé personne. So here we have ne pas, ne jamais, et ne rien, sandwich the helper verb in the passé composé. And the past participle that I'm pointing to comes after the sandwich. But ne personne sandwiches both the auxiliary verb and the past participle, the two elements of the passé composé. Okay? Are you seeing the difference between ne pas, ne jamais, ne rien, and ne personne? I hope so. Okay. So what is the opposite of ne personne, no one? It's quelqu'un, someone. We have to memorize these. Ne personne, quelqu'un. Exemple, tu invites quelqu'un? Are you inviting someone? No, je n'invite personne. No, I'm not inviting anyone. Personne can also be used to answer no one. Here we go. Tu as regardé quelqu'un? Non. Je n'ai regardé personne. Did you watch someone? No, I watched no one. Tu as mangé quelque chose? Je n'ai rien mangé. Because we have here quelque chose, we answer it with ne rien in the negative. Okay. Here are the opposites, les opposés, the contraries. We look at these in more details. We've learned already quelqu'un, quelque chose, and we will look at tout le monde et personne. In person, we'll go over this slide more in details. Let's continue now with le passé composé of the verb aller. So far we've learned the passé composé of the regular ER, IR, and RE verbs, as well as of some irregular verbs. All use avoir as a helper verb, right? Now we're gonna learn that aller is conjugated a bit differently in the passé composé. I can say where someone went using the verb aller to go in the past tense. I'm gonna skip this and show you that, maybe not, maybe I'll go back to this one. The passé composé of aller is formed with être according to this pattern. So the verb aller is conjugated with être, not like what we've been learning so far. It's not avoir, it's with être in the passé composé according to this pattern. Present of être plus past participle. Okay, the past participle takes endings to agree with the subject because it's with être. When we conjugate the verb with être, and I will show you in a minute what I mean. When it is conjugated with être, we must add the agreement at the end of the past participle with the subject. Here we go. Look at the conjugation. Let me see. Okay. So we have, here is the conjugation of aller and the passé composé. So we have to look at two different charts, one for the masculine and one for the feminine, or charts or columns, one for the masculine, one for the feminine. Look at this. For the masculine affirmative, we say, je suis allé. So let's remember the conjugation of être, because we said aller is conjugated with être. Je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont. Now, those conjugations mean I am, you are, he is, she is, we are, you all are, and they are. Now, when we use it with aller in the passé composé, aller with e accent aigu, first of all, is the past participle of the verb aller, to go. And we say je suis allé means I meant, means I went. So since if a male is speaking, aller stays the same. It doesn't take a feminine e, it doesn't take an s, because aller should agree with gender and number with the subject. The subject is masculine, so aller is masculine. The subject is singular, so aller is singular. Like so, je suis allé, accent aigu, tu es allé, I went, you went, il est allé, accent aigu, nous sommes allés, Oh, here we have nous, so the subject is plural. We add an S to aller to the past participle, but we do not add a feminine E because aller, nous is masculine, plural. Vous êtes allés, same concept, you all went, and ils sont allés, they all went. Here we're understanding that il is plural and masculine, so we add only an S. In the negative form, we say, so of course we place ne pas around, this is a simple negative, right? We're only here using ne pas, so we place ne pas around the helper verb. So, je ne suis pas allé or allé, je ne suis pas allé, means I did not go. For the interrogative form or question form, we either use the intonation, tu es allé, or we use the inversion, es-tu allé? We invert the subject and the verb. And est-ce que tu es allé? Est-ce que tu es allé? We start with est-ce que, then subject, and then verb. Now let's compare the masculine to the feminine form. Here we're assuming all the subjects are feminine. So je is feminine, tu is feminine, elle is feminine, obviously. Nous is feminine, vous is feminine, elle is feminine. So since je is feminine, we have to add an e to the to aller. Je suis allé. And why are we changing the endings of aller? Because we are using être, not avoir, as a helper verb. When we use être, we have to do these agreements. Okay, so let's continue. Je suis allé. Tu es allé. Elle est allée. Feminine E, feminine E, feminine E, right? Nous sommes allés. So here we have nous is feminine and plural. So we add E and then S. Vous êtes allés, same thing. Elles sont allées. Je suis allé, tu es allé, elle est allée. Nous sommes allés, vous êtes allés, elles sont allées. Same thing for the negative form. Je ne suis pas allé, but we add an E to aller. Same thing for the interrogative form as well. Tu es allé? Es-tu allé? Est-ce que tu es allé? Okay, continuons. Let's move to the new learning target. Of course, for each of these activities, we will have practices together and for homework. I can communicate information about when something is taking place or took place using expressions of time in the past, present, and future. Okay, let's see those expressions. So here we have a list of expressions. Most of you already know, most of them you already know. So do not be intimidated by the list. D'accord? So, quelques expressions de temps, some expressions of time. This will help you write better paragraphs. Maintenant, now, aujourd'hui, today, ce matin, this morning, cet après-midi, this afternoon, ce soir. Then we continue. Avant, before, hier, yesterday, hier matin, yesterday morning, hier après-midi, yesterday afternoon, hier soir, yesterday evening, and then après means after. Demain, tomorrow, demain matin, tomorrow morning, demain après-midi, demain soir, and so forth. Now, lundi is Monday. Lundi dernier, lundi dernier, last Monday. Lundi prochain, next Monday. Prochain, next Monday. Ce weekend, this weekend. Le weekend dernier, last weekend. Le weekend prochain, next weekend. Okay, so I think the meanings of dernier and prochain are obvious now. So I'm gonna translate, I'm gonna just read the rest, and if I feel that there's something I need to explain, I will. Cette semaine, this week. La semaine dernière, you guessed it. La semaine prochaine, next week. Ce mois-ci, this month. Le mois dernier, le mois prochain. Cet été, this summer, l'été dernier. last summer, l'été prochain, next summer, cette année, this year, l'année dernière, last year, l'année prochaine, next year. And so let's look at, so if we look at this column, we see that all these expressions can be used for the present, like je travaille ce matin, cette année je travaille, right? So all these expressions on the left use the present tense. Here we have the second column is for the passé composé because it's the past. J'ai travaillé avant, before, j'ai travaillé hier, yesterday, j'ai travaillé. I'll give you another example from here. Le mois dernier, last month, j'ai travaillé. In the third column here, which is the one on the right, is for the near future, right? Après, later, or after, demain, tomorrow, lundi prochain, next Monday, l'été prochain, next summer. They all use the near future, which we've learned. This is a future form that we've learned so far. You use aller plus infinitive, right? Je vais travailler. So je travaille now. J'ai travaillé in the past, passé composé, et je vais travailler, it's in the future. D'accord. I believe we come here to the end of the learning targets for this unit. D'accord. Make sure to fill out your lesson notes and to repeat and pay attention to what you're writing and fill in the lesson notes. Merci beaucoup. Review, rewind, and watch as necessary. Okay, maybe you'll need to watch this more than once. Don't hesitate to do so. Merci beaucoup, and I'll see you in la vidéo prochaine, next video. Merci. Au revoir.